vulnerable, and therefore there is such a rationale for some funding that should go to countries that are vulnerable like the Philippines.
Ayan. Thank you, Rodela. See how easy it is for me? The Green Climate Fund is intended to help developing countries adapt to these changes. Kaya kami nag-aaway internationally, the Philippines is the co-chair of the Green Climate Fund. They created the mechanism, pero wala pa talagang pera. So yun ang laging pinag-aawayan natin ngayon na kailan kaya makikita yung suporta dahil the scientists, the mainstream scientists already declared na mukhang kailangan na mag-adapt, lalo na mga hihirap na bansa tulad ng Pilipinas. I hope we answered that question.
All right. Thanks, ma'am. And thank you to our experts. Now, so our first question came from the Adamson University. Now, for our next question.
Yung matatapang, ayun.
All right, from the University of the Philippines.
Sagot nyo na.
Good morning. I'm Rage Gonzalez from UP Diliman. Anyone could answer. I just like to know if is nuclear power plant a good source? Can we say that it's a clean source of energy? And is it possible to any parts of the Philippines to be put up?
Well, nuclear energy is clean, at least on the greenhouse gas. Walang masyadong emission. But the issue of nuclear is safety. So they thought before, if we are a country that is prone to earthquakes, you see what happened to Fukushima, Japan na ngayon, ganun na nangyari. Imagine if that will happen to our country. So I guess, that's, in terms, let's say, on climate change and greenhouse gas emission, tama ba? Wala halos. Very, or kung meron man, very minimal. Pero safety is an issue.
Can I have a follow-up question, ma'am?
Sure.
How about Palawan? Is it okay to put it there? Because I think there's no fault there.
Okay, you think of Palawan as a safe place or probably an alternative for the site of a nuclear plant. But there is no, to me, to us, there are no safe places for any nuclear plant. Because if you remember, the first nuclear plant that would have been built in the Philippines would have been in Bataan. But a lot of studies had come up and it had all came out with a conclusion that it is never safe to do a nuclear plant in any area, especially near the sea. That is the main reason, like what Secretary Sering said, the main reason for our not espousing nuclear plant, despite its being a clean source of power in terms of greenhouse gases, we are not considering it at all because of the safety reasons. We just don't know what's going to happen should there be any leakage. And I don't think we can afford to have any adverse impacts on our marine life.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Lourdes Tibig. And for that question, University of the Philippines.
Jules, I have a question.
Dr. Rosa wants to add?
Okay, Dr. Rosa? Another issue on the nuclear energy is the disposal of the nuclear waste. We have very few areas that can be, where the waste can be put in.
I think that's a problem of Japan, no? In Fukushima.
Ako as a geologist...
Round of applause, ang gwapo ni Dr. C.P. David.
Hindi na ako magsasalita. Now, being a geologist, I personally don't have a stand yet on nuclear power just yet. But my point is that there are other sources of energy that we can tap. Before we look into nuclear, there is hydropower. We are blessed with many, many sources of hydropower. Geothermal is another one. And we haven't yet explored our potential for wind and solar just yet. So I would actually and many other sources of electricity. And to me, we should exploit all other sources first before we look into a higher technology that we might not even be prepared for just yet.
Yes, Dr. Peraso.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on. You know that the radiation effects, I'm talking from the health perspective, they're very irreversible effects on the human body. It's so hard for us to have radiation effects. And if it gets into the food, it gets into the web, no? The water, and it gets into the human system. It's so hard kasi genetic ang effects ng radiation.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are so lucky to be hearing from the best.
Yes, Secretary, we also have a question here
Can
from
we entertain one more? So,
a high school student
oh,
po.
high school. Sige.
Hi, I'm Alison Pascual from Colegio San Agustin. I would like to ask, since we have identified the Philippines for having a high risk when it comes to global changes, what are the safest places to be in the Philippines, if you would suggest? For evacuation.
That is a very good question. It depends where you live, actually. It depends where you live. Our experts, can you please, maybe our geologist can take it off from there, and then the weather, and then the forester, and then health.
Well, unfortunately, in terms of typhoon occurrences, typhoon formation and typhoon occurrences, unfortunately, the Philippines is the country all over the globe that's most exposed to typhoons. But if we look at in terms of impacts, one of the rather projected impacts of climate change that is really going to be a threat, not just to most of our communities, is sea level rise. And I'm talking about coastal communities. No one is ever safe from sea level rise if it happens at the rate that we expect them to be. So if you look at where are the safest place in terms of impacts from accelerated sea level rise, I would say it would be in inland areas. But in terms of impacts on other sectors, well, we do have to look at that very carefully because there's hardly any area, whether in the developed world or in the developing world, that is perfectly safe from the impacts, whether actual or projected impacts, adverse impacts of climate change.
So what we're saying here is that we've seen naman how we've thrived as a community. We've seen how we've survived. We wanted to know how it can be survivable. If we are to be specific with Yolanda, most of those who were affected are actually coastal areas. And these are the areas where you now start to think, should we allow them to go back? Or if they should go back, what are the interventions in infrastructure that we think can protect them from all these hazards? At the same time, even if they insist to go back, knowing their vulnerability, because that's their choice, being a democratic country, at least when they are required to evacuate, they should listen. So this is just the whole point. If you're going to ask me, can we survive? Yes. Otherwise, I will resign because, I'll be so depressed the whole time. It really depends where you live. And we have now multi-hazard maps. And even, let's say, inland and upland, there's also issue of a landslide. I think a geologist, and rain-induced landslide can also happen. That's why there's a need for us to be informed. We cannot just let our local government leaders to just plan it by themselves without you being involved. And the reason why you're all here is that this information will have to be factored in. And we have our national panel of experts who are more than willing and very generous of their time to answer. That's right, Doc?
I think the key word here is still preparedness.
Preparedness. And later we will know a lot about preparedness by someone really a good friend of ours. And later they will explain what to do. And I think the next speakers will get this conversation going for you to know more about preparedness. So thank you very much, Pebbles.
Thank you very much, Secretary
you.
Lucille, for moderating our open discussion with the members of the National Panel of Technical Experts. Jules, ano nga ba ang ginagawa ng National Panel of Technical Experts sa kasalukuyan?
All right, Ate Pebbles and ladies and gentlemen, to share the initiatives of the National Panel of Technical Experts, may we invite Dr. Rodel Lasco of the World Agroforestry Center for this talk. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Okay. Well, good morning to all of you. Magandang umaga. It's really a pleasure on my part, to be able to share with you what we are doing in terms of the work of the technical panel of the Climate Change Commission. I guess this is the second slide, but nevertheless, let me go straight to here. We know what happened 2 weeks ago, and if you can press, please. But this is the big question. Is this climate change? That's one of the things that was discussed, being, discussed in the media, as well perhaps as to the minds of a lot of people like yourself. And this is a very science question. And you might think that the answer is simple, or you might think that I will give you an answer. No, I won't give you an answer, because the answer is more nuanced, more complex than just simply saying yes or no. It can be yes, it can be no, depending on how we reason out. And my point is that science is a very important part of responding to climate change. Let's remember that the whole climate change issue, greenhouse gases, and everything else, really started with science and technology. Sino ba naka-imbento ng makina, ng paggamit ng fossil fuels, and so on. So a lot of the things we enjoy came from science, and we are blessed because of science. But however, there are also negative impacts of science. At ang isa na nga dyan, yung tinatawag natin ngayon, climate change. Next, please. And so we thought of, together with the Climate Change Commission and with funding from the OML Center, we thought of starting our own Philippines Climate Change Assessment. Next, please. It is led, it's being led, and it's happening as I speak. We're doing the assessment right now. It is led by Filipino scientists who are part of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and as well, of course, as my colleagues who are sitting with me here right now. It is the first ever assessment of science comprehensively in the country. Next, please. And the main objective of this is to synthesize the available information in terms of the technical as well as the socio-economic aspects of climate change in the Philippines. So just like the IPCC, and by the way, we patterned this after the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports. And that assessment has been going on since the early 90s. And so there will be 3 groups. The first group, which is composed of a panel of scientists, about 10 Filipino scientists, will look at the physical science basis. Working Group 2 will look at the impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability. And finally, Working Group 3 will look at mitigation. Next, please. And to give you an idea of what's to come out, this is just 2 months ago, the IPCC released their Working Group 2 report, Working Group 1 report, the physical science basis. So here's an example of the report, and as you can see from this is the projection of the global temperature, average surface temperature in the next 100 years. So this kind is global. So what we want to do is also to synthesize available information for the Philippines. Next, please. This is the IPCC, again, 2013 report showing that the world will become wet and even wetter moving forward in the next 100 years. Next, please. And of course, shown earlier by Secretary Sering is the Pag-asa projections for the Philippines in the next 100 years. So this is the kind of data and information that will be part of the Working Group 1. Next, please. Working Group 2 is all about impacts and adaptation. And again, here's an example from the recent IPCC report, 2012, showing the exposure to tropical cyclones. And if you will note from there, the people exposed will double in Asia in the year 2030. So these are the kinds of science information. There's a lot of scientific literature out there. And so we want to synthesize, we want to see what's the latest conclusions of science in our country. Next, please. This is another example. It's not from the IPCC, but an example of rice, cultivation, irrigated rice, and how it may change in the next 50 years, or about next 40 years. By 2050, how irrigated rice yield may change. And in this data, it may decline by up to a quarter, 25% by 2050 with climate change. Next, please. But there are also adaptation techniques. We don't just wait for things to happen. We want to be proactive about it. And here's one research showing how breeding can help in terms of submergence, flood tolerance of rice varieties. As you can see, some rice varieties are still alive after the 17 days of being underwater, while some varieties are totally dead on the water, literally. So if we can develop more of those breeds that can survive flooding, then of course that will add to the food security of our country. Next, please. Next, please. And finally, Working Group 3 will look at mitigation or reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Next, please. And as you can see from here, this is the latest inventory, greenhouse gas inventory of the country. And every Filipino, all of us, emit about 2 tons of CO2 per year based on this data. And an American will probably emit 10 times more CO2 per year. Next, please. And there are many ways, again, as shown in the video earlier. We can tap wind power. Next, please. We can also plant trees. They sequester carbon. They store carbon. Next, please. And finally, my last slide is just showing a non-scientific study, but nevertheless, most of you are aware, of course, with the internet and Google. And I just type in Google metrics or Google Trends the amount of search for climate change in the web. This was last year. I did this last year. And quite interestingly, after 2007, there was really a lot of interest in climate change around the world. But most surprising of all, if you tap the next slide, please, what this very quick study showed is that the Philippines is the #1 searcher for climate change. Is that surprising, right? Or perhaps not surprising, considering that we are the ones who are most interested with climate change because of typhoons, for example. So this is in a way encouraging that a lot of Filipinos, a lot of search in the web on climate change are being done by Filipinos. No, they're looking for information. We want information because we know that climate change is real to us in this country. And so with this, let me end. I think this is the last slide. And let me thank you very much for your attention.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rodel Lasco. And of course, it is an honor for us to be with the National Panel of Technical Experts.
All right, so now that we have learned the science of climate change, one of our climate change experts will share an online and traffic portal that is currently developing with the television network.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Carlos Primo David or Dr. CP David and Mr. Nathaniel Cruz, o mas kilala natin bilang Mang Tani, GMA News resident meteorologist.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. If there's one thing that we need to learn in the aftermath of Typhoon Yolanda is that information, even accurate information, may not be enough. 2 days before Yolanda, we actually knew of the typhoon track. We knew how powerful it would be. We even calculated how high the storm surge would be in areas like Tacloban. But it seems that it's not enough because in the wake of Typhoon Yolanda, many of our communities were left unprepared, and therefore many casualties and damages have occurred after this. In the advent of climate change and natural hazards such as typhoons and storm surges that will happen in the near future, we need to do something. No? And I think accurate information is already there, but the problem, I think, at this point in time is that we are not communicating it properly. Proper communication, if someone told me what a storm surge is, no, if we were able to explain this way ahead of time and told Tacloban storm surge looks like this and this will be the damage, then I'm almost certain that there will be less casualties, after Typhoon Yolanda. Next slide. So information is key, but probably more important is how we communicate this information. And this is where GMA comes in. No? We are partnering with GMA in order to popularize and even mainstream disaster information. We need to put this on TV, on radio, and even online. And this is where a good friend of mine comes in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mang Tani, Chief Meteorologist of GMA7.
Kala ko na climate change din itong Mike. Hi, good morning, everybody. Sino mga kapuso dito? Bakit parang kokonti yata? Sino mga kapuso dito? Alright, thank you. Sino ang nanonood ng 24 oras? Okay. At saka unang hirit. Masyadong maaga kanina, no? Now, bago ako magsimula sa pagbibigay ko ng weather forecast, merong intro. At ito yung lagi nyo nadidinig. I am ready. Serbisyong totoo ng GMA News. By the way, wala po tayong bagyo ngayon, ha? Kaya ako nandito sa harapan nyo. So, yung I am ready was introduced year 2010, October. Pagkatapos po during the first anniversary ng Bagyong Ondoy. Natatandaan niyo ba yung Bagyong Ondoy? Sino mga naging biktima ng Bagyong Ondoy? Thank you, wala rito. Doon. Mga taga Marikina po sila? Okay. So yun ang isang naging dahilan kung bakit nagkaroon tayo ng I am ready. Dapat hindi na maulit yung nangyari kay Ondoy. Dapat hindi na rin naulit dahil pagkatapos ni Ondoy, meron pa uling 2 bagyo, but this time, hindi na sa Metro Manila. Doon na sa Mindanao. Sendong, and then, sino yung pagkatapos sa Sendong? Nakalimutan nyo na. Sino ba taga Mindanao dito? Okay, pagkatapos si Sendong, sino po yung sumunod? Pablo. And then, last November 8, meron na naman pong mapaminsalang bagyo at ito ay si Yolanda. But nonetheless, paano kung hindi nakahanda yung mga tao ron? Although sinasabi nila kulang. Pero yon ang isang number 1 difference. Yung readiness ng mga tao. Kaya ito'y napakahalaga. Ngayon, kahit saan po ako pumunta, ang tawag na sa akin ng mga bata, ayan na si Mr. I am ready. No? Yun ang ngayon. Pagkatapos ko ng stint ko sa Pag-asa, ito ngayon yung dapat na lagi nating tandaan. May bagyo man o wala, may baha man o wala, may lindol man o wala, we should be, I am ready. And then, next slide please. Nasaan ba yung ating Okay. Ito yung 3 M natin. Magplano, magsiguro, makibalita. Ano ibig sabihin ng 3 po na yan? Instill a proactive attitude of preparedness by giving viewers practical tips on what to do before, during, and after the rains. So, ang una nating ginawa dito, dahil after Ondoy, ang una muna nating concern, kapag bumaha, kapag umulan, ano ang dapat nating gawin? Pero, meron pang ibang hazards tayo. Hindi lamang po yung bagyo. So, we introduce other I am ready branches. Yan yung alerto sa tagulan, Fire Prevention Month, alerto sa lindol na nangyari po yan doon sa Bohol at sa ibang probinsya sa Visayas, alerto sa tagulan, and then summer, and even during Christmas season, dapat alerto rin tayo. Ano ba ang mga panganib kapag may Pasko? Of course, maliban sa amin na maraming inaanak, panganib po yun, pero doon sa inyo, mga bahay, kuminsan nasusunog because of faulty Christmas lights. Di ba? So yun yung mga dahilan na hindi lamang during tag-ulan, hindi lamang during taglindol, dapat tayong maging I am ready. 365 days a year, we should be I am ready. And then in 2012, ang GMA News and Public Affairs ay nakabili po ng isang sophisticated weather provider. At yung nakikita nyo po dyan, kakambal ko po yan yung nasa kaliwa. Yan po si Mang Tani nung bagong dating sa GMA. At yung pong isa, si Karen, isang consultant din doon sa GMA Weather. So itinatag po ng GMA yung bahagi ng I Am Ready at yung GMA Weather. Kaya kapag po nakikita nyo ngayon ako, nagbibigay ng forecast sa TV, meron na tayong graphics, meron na tayong pinipindot, at ang mahalaga rito, yung focus natin hindi lamang para sa isang malaking bahagi ng bansa. We can pinpoint weather condition sa kahit anong lugar dito sa ating bansa. So, yun yung ating ginagawa ngayon. At yun pong ating GMA Weather o yung Weather Central, interactive yun. So, makikita niyo po ako ngayon, kapag nagbibigay ng forecast, marami ng graphics tayong ginagamit. And then, of course, ito pong GMA Weather will be partnering with so many different government and non-governmental agencies. Hindi lamang po yung GMA Weather, kundi yung buong I am ready. No? And next slide, please. So these are the reasons why we have to come up with this program. Take steps in reducing risk, protect themselves in any kind of emergency situation, plan their routes and itineraries. So hindi lamang po para sa mga nasa bahayan, lalong-lalo na yung mga nasa karsada, and be proactive participants in disaster and risk management. Climate change means more hazards, whether it's meteorological, whether it's hydrological, or even geological. So ito po ang pinakamahalaga. We should be proactive. Hindi natin kailangang kumilos kapag nandyan na yung hazard. No? And then of course, pinakadulo po nito, yung GMA Weather, it's only a part of I Am Ready. So yung pong I Am Ready is now a group, and that will be discussed further by Dr. C.P. David. Maraming salamat po.
Next slide, please. Again, just to reiterate what Mang Tani was saying, we are bringing your science subject to TV and online. We want to educate everybody in terms of the hazards that we face as a nation. This is GMA's I Am Ready. Next slide, please. And what we want to achieve, together with a lot of partnerships, hopefully together with the Climate Change Commission, is to serve everyone and guide everyone for safe and convenient living in the country. Next slide. Currently, I Am Ready is only for weather and for traffic, but this will be much more in the next few months. The principal challenge is to provide a portal, a source where you can get all the information that you need for the entire country. And we combine the entire program of GMA into what is now going to be known as the I Am Ready online portal. I hope everyone will be a partner in this. Many people will be needed in order for this to be a success. And I encourage everyone to approach any of us later on, during lunchtime probably, and see how we can partner with your schools, with individuals, and so on, in order for us to achieve a very important endeavor through the I Am Ready project. Maraming salamat po. Salamat sa inyong pakikinig.
Thank you very much, Mang Tani and Dr. C.P. David.
And now, to showcase their talent, let us all welcome the young performers of St. Michael's College of Laguna. Again, let's give it up for the St. Michael's College of Laguna. Muli isang masigabong palakpakan para sa St. Michael's College of Laguna Dance Troupe.
Fire, water, earth, and of course, air. What a wonderful display of colors and elements.
The Greeneration Summit, a gathering for youth empowerment on climate change, is organized by the Climate Change Commission in cooperation with the Commission on Higher Education and the Department of Education with the support of the United Nations Development Program, United States Agency for International Development, GIZ Philippines, Globe Telecom, SM Cares, International Organization for Migration, and Rappler. We would also like to invite our participants to like the Greeneration Philippines Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at GreenerationPHL. Keep on tweeting and don't forget to use hashtag ActNowPH.
Also, as members of the Greeneration, we should practice what we preach by segregating our wastes at the designated disposal bins located inside the venue. While lunch is being served, you will be seeing videos from the Climate Change Commission and our partners. We are also encouraging you to visit the booths of our partners. We have the Department of Energy, Red Cross, and you can also use our iPads at the back so that you can go online and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and like our Facebook page. We also have the booth of USAID on low